Good morning, Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor's Small Business Academy 2025. It is now my pleasure to introduce Alex Izquierdo, Director, Wisconsin Supplier Diversity Program, Department of Administration, and he will be facilitating and moderating our small business story, Overcoming Challenges of Launching and Growing panel. Alex?
Hello, good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. All right, so I think we're still waiting for one more person to join us. I see Angie. Hello, welcome. I see Mr. Truman. Hello, welcome. Ashley, Angie, Mr. Truman. We are still waiting for Sarah. All right, there she is. Hey, Sarah. All right, are you able to, we can't hear you, Sarah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hello, hello, my friend. Thank you for joining us. All right. So, good morning, everybody. My name is Alex. As Michael said, I'm the director for the I represent the Department of Administration. I'm the director for the Supplier Diversity Program for the beautiful state of Wisconsin, and we're going to have we're going to be diving into the real world experiences of 4 inspiring business owners who have walked the winding path of entrepreneurship, from launching their ventures to tackling funding challenges and everything in between. And so with me today, I have Sarah Branch, CEO and founder of Crashbox Therapy and Earthly Temptation Wellness. Welcome. Truman McGee, founder of Funky Fresh Spring Rolls. I love that title. I love it. Ashley Quinto Powell, founder of My VA Rocks. Hello, welcome. And Angie Whelan, business owner of YB Urban. All right. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to ask that we go around 3 to 4 minutes each. Talk to us. First we're going to have Sarah, who you are, what your business does, one major challenge you faced early on, how did you approach or access funding, and then also a breakthrough or proud moment. And so again, you have 3 to 4 minutes. Go.
Hey y'all, I am Sarah, owner of Earthly Temptation and Crashbox Therapy. At Earthly Temptation, we are a holistic wellness space, so offering products like body butter, oils, aromatherapy, candles, and crystals. At Crashbox Therapy, we is Fitchburg's first and only smash room, so for folks can come in and break things to relieve stress and frustration. We just opened that last month, so we're excited about that. So one of the biggest challenges I faced with opening my business is realizing that I actually didn't know anything about business or how to run a business. Like, I knew how to formulate my products, I knew how to order inventory, but when it came down to like marketing, getting to know my customers and pricing structures, I didn't have any clue on how to actually do that. I didn't know much about business. So to help me navigate that, I had joined a local organization that worked with small business owners who showed us the structures of business and how to run businesses smoothly. And I forgot the last question.
A breakthrough or proud moment.
So one of my proudest moments was being like a repeat vendor at markets and pop-ups and having customers actually come look for me. So I knew then that we had good products, and then it was important for us to reach our community. So we had opened the brick and mortar on South Park Street for Earthly Temptation, and that was really great so that we can serve our community and folks know where we are to come get our products or to participate in workshops or sound baths. Thank you.
Very nice, thank you, and congratulations on your new venture. Miss Ashley.
Thanks, Alex. So I'm Ashley Quinto Powell. I'm the founder and CEO of My VA Rocks. We're a virtual assistant agency. I have about 70 virtual assistants all across the
Hi,
United States.
Ashley. This is Michael. Your microphone is coming in really faint. Alex, could we move to another and come back to Ashley for just a moment?
Sure. Could we go with Truman?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, and hello to all of the viewers. My name is Truman. I am owner and head roll master of Funky Fresh Spring Rolls. I got some packs here. They're non-traditional protein packed spring rolls made from fresh ingredients, never deep fried. We got flavors like buffalo chicken and kale. We got the sweet potato and black bean. We got chicken club. We got chicken, turkey bacon, avocado, tomato, mozzarella, and the chicken, broccoli, and mushroom. Our business started over, wow, every time I tell the story, it just keeps getting longer and longer. But it's been about 13 years when we started the business. I was a laid off construction worker, had to move back home, my parents. I was almost turning 30. I was going bald. I was out of shape, and all of the stress in the world was on top of me. And I realized, and I needed to do something for the next half of my life, and or not next half, but next part of my life. And I started to just, work out, make healthier foods, and have so much fun doing it that didn't go back to my job as a construction worker. And I just started a fitness business and a food business at the same time, where people could work out and they get healthier options. Come to find out, people don't like working out as much as they like eating. So the food business kind of went to the next level, and I stopped training and I had to come up with a name for these different items. I was making salads and healthier turkey burgers, and I had these sweet potato baked bean burritos, which we eventually turned into a spring roll. And the spring rolls just kind of went crazy, literally selling them out of my parents' house still. And I just listened to this big voice, and I think one thing in my story is just always listen to that voice that tells you to go right instead of left. I just listened to that, and I started making these different flavor spring rolls: buffalo chicken, chicken broccoli mushroom. Came up with the name Funky Fresh Spring Rolls because we use fresh ingredients. It was funky combinations, and I'm a Funky Fresh. I'm different. I love hip hop culture, so Funky Fresh is an old hip hop term or whatever. So that's where the name Funky Fresh Spring Rolls came from in 2016. Similar to Sarah, like you jump into business and you don't know what you don't know. So I learned a lot of lessons just by jumping in the fire, about having commercial kitchens and food safety and how to produce at a large level. So we went from selling at farmers markets 2014, 15, 16. In 2018, we opened up our first restaurant inside the Grand Avenue Mall in Milwaukee, which then turned into the Sherman, which then we pivoted to the Sherman Phoenix later that year when the Grand Avenue Mall closed. And from 2018, our business grew. We went from selling 25,000 spring rolls a year to over 100,000 spring rolls. And going into one of my proudest moments is like going into 2020, COVID happened. Of course, the whole world shut down, especially the restaurant industry. We got hit hard, and we didn't know how to pivot. So literally, I spent one day at home crying, and the next day I got off my couch and I started taking our spring rolls, freezing them, selling them out of Ziploc bags, like directly on Facebook, Instagram, and that just kind of blew up to the point where we got them into farmers markets, got to a couple small local grocery stores in the Milwaukee area. In 2022, we partnered with Palermo Pizza, one of the biggest pizza manufacturers in the country, and now they've been able to help us scale and manufacturing and distribution, and now we in about 360 stores across the country. So that's kind of my proudest moment, and the biggest obstacle was all in one was COVID for us, and we're able to pivot and make the best out of it. So I'm just super thankful to be here and to share my story and maybe get some inspiration to people out there, and maybe connect with other entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah, thank you for now I'm hungry, and it's 11:09. I'm hungry. Thank you for sharing your story, sir. I love the energy so far. Folks, it is unfiltered here. All right. Some filters here.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. Ashley, you ready?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's like quiet and I should yell a little bit, or is it okay?
You're good.
Okay. Awesome. So once again, I'm Ashley Quinto Powell. I own a company called My VA Rocks. We're a virtual assistant agency, and I hire basically admin folks all across the U.S. I have about 70 on my team and a really strong core team. And I started the most challenging thing for me for starting the company was that I was working for myself as a consultant. So I had two businesses simultaneously. To be fair, today I actually have three, although not the original one, because I am one of those entrepreneurs who loves starting new stuff. And this is like my 10th or 11th business, but it's really the first one that has taken off. And for me, a major thing to watch is that we are always cash flow positive. We are the people that work for us. So making sure we always have the right cash flow to get everybody paid on time as promised is maybe the most critical thing that I need to. I mean, to be fair, I think it might be the most critical thing any business owner does, pay their people and keep the lights on. But for us, it's such a significant portion of where our expenses are. And so the challenge is then making sure that you always have enough cash stored up. And for funding, I tried to make sure that we were profitable from day one, which is possible in the kind of business that I have. A big deal for me is not making a huge investment before finding a client or a customer, because you really don't know what people will pay for. And your friends will tell you, yes, I think this is the best idea ever, but unless someone is willing to actually buy it, you don't really have a business. And we had to be fair, we listened in the first couple of years really carefully and changed almost everything about our offering. But I've tried to make it cash flow positive since day one, but I certainly have relied on personal credit cards for funding. I'm really glad that I had a HELOC available to me, a home equity line of credit. We own a little starter house, and we've been in it now for 13 years. And once you work for yourself, it is really hard to get a mortgage. We had a disaster in 2022 where we got all the way to the closing table and we didn't get the loan. I had sent my kids to the wrong school orientation. We were like packed and ready to go, and then no loan. And it had more to do with what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were looking for, which is like someone with a steady W-2 history. And even though I could show my income had never dipped, the underwriting did not love that I had two businesses. They didn't love that I had a consulting firm. So we've now restructured both the way that I pay taxes on the company and the way I pay myself so that I'm a W-2 employee. So we can take another crack at it sometime soon. But I have been consistently incredibly grateful that we have a HELOC. And then once my business got bigger, I took out, I applied for an SBA line of credit, and that has been really, really helpful. So we have some additional cushion. And actually it was Michelle Thoms-Boer at the SBDC who originally told me how important it was to keep cash around, because she said every one of her clients who had at least 6 months access to 6 months capital when COVID hit made it, and those who didn't have access to that much capital didn't make it. And man, it is really hard to, you're trying to pay yourself and your people and make wise investments, and also then you're hoarding cash. So that would be those are the ways that I have thought about and sought funding.
In your proud moment?
Ooh, well, when I first set out to start this company, and I got the feeling that it was going to be bigger than a flop, I decided that I wanted to join the 4% of female business owners that make it to a 7-figure business by the 2-year mark. And so that's what we drove towards. And in case you're wondering, you have to do 83,333 a month to hit a run rate of $1 million a year. And so we just tracked 83,333. I wrote it on, actually, I think I still have it. I wrote it on a bottle of champagne and put it in my refrigerator. And when we hit 83,333, I invited my parents and my kids and my husband to join me in this bottle of champagne that had been sitting for really quite some time in my refrigerator.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Wow. Interesting story. A little bit of everything, huh? A little bit of everything. Angie, hi. Talk to us.
Hi, I'm Angie Whalen. I am the owner and creative guru at YB Urban. We are an aromatherapy and wellness company focusing on creating farm-inspired personal care, creating healthy alternatives to the products that people use every single day, things like lotion and lip balm to hair care products, skin care products. We have, like over 100 different formulas that we produce and just like loads of different fragrance options that we offer. And we do have a little shop here in Ellsworth, Wisconsin, in our little downtown here, not too far from the world famous creamery here with all the cheese curds, if you're familiar with that. So for me, my story is a little bit similar to Truman's in the sense that I actually started my business when I was living out in Las Vegas, and I started a clothing business. I was making boutique clothing for ages like 0 to 24 months. Really cute stuff. And then my husband and I decided we wanted to be farmers. And so we left Las Vegas and came to rural Wisconsin. Started off in a rental home just kind of north of the Baldwin, south of New Richmond area out here. And I found out really quickly early on that when I started doing craft fairs and getting out there to sell my clothes, that there was a very small market at an art fair or a craft fair for high-end 0 to 24-month clothing. And so I approached my husband and I was like, this is a lot of work setting up these booths to sit there and hit 5% of the traffic or something to that extent. So I told him, we need to find something else to bring into this space that will attract more people into our booth and up our sales to make this actually like a worthwhile adventure. And he said, I've always wanted to make soap and call it YB Stinky. And so we kind of just ran with that and developed this product line of body care products. We make soap and like lotion called YB Dry and lip balm called YB Chapped. And we just kind of ran with this kind of quirky branding concept. And I just kind of got to the point where kind of like what Truman was saying, it's easier to sell food than exercise. It's a lot easier to sell a $5 bar of soap than a $65 dress for an infant, and so it got to the point where the bath and body aspect of our business just kind of, it became clear there was a living that could be made doing that, whereas convincing people what the true cost of clothing is and clothing manufacturing is in the United States was a much bigger challenge. And so I've had a really big passion for using essential oils and studying the science behind essential oils for many years. And so that kind of became my passion, and just to get out there. And I found that there was a lot of people who wanted to know more about that and didn't. People who were really getting more and more concerned about the ingredients that they were finding in their products and the research that was coming out with that. And I just started doing, like Sarah, like a lot of like my own research, my own development, developing my own formulas, and just kind of teaching myself how to do that. And so I think that first lesson I learned was like, if you want to make a living making something, producing something, manufacturing something, you have to go for what people are willing to spend the money on and go for that part of your business that's able to grow. From there, I also got a yoga certification. So I am a yoga instructor as well, and that fit in really nicely with the whole wellness business. So in the beginning was doing all of this out of my home. And then I think the real breakthrough moment for our business that kind of brought us to where we are now was when we decided to purchase our own farm, just a little homestead outside of Ellsworth. And I just remember that first moment when we found the property, we fell in love with it, and then we had to come and check out the schools because we do have 2 kids that are we're in like the elementary age school at that time. And so this was about 8 years ago, and we drove through Ellsworth to go to the school. And I mean, we had been to Ellsworth to get cheese curds because we lived pretty close to there, but we had never really come through town because there just wasn't a lot to do. So we kind of drove past this little downtown area where the creamery is, and I looked down this street and there's all of these like empty buildings, but what was very much like this cute commercial district with a lot of potential, but had obviously been very forgotten, or it just kind of had fell into disrepair over the years. And I met with the president or the executive officer of the Ellsworth Chamber, and I was like, is anybody doing anything? Like, is there anything happening down here in downtown Ellsworth? And she's like, we're trying. It's very challenging. A lot of the buildings are in disrepair. There's not really a lot of businesses there. And I'm like, what do you think it would take to just like reimagine this part of town? And she said, I think it would just take one business owner willing to take a chance down there. And I get a little choked up, but I just remember thinking to myself, that's going to be me.
Love it. I love it. Taking chances, asking those hard questions, and just being open-minded to that. So thank you all for sharing your story. Now, there's one question that I want you all to answer, but I never asked where you all were from. So Angie shared she's from Ellsworth. Ashley, where are you from?
I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, but I'm originally from Chicago.
Okay. Sarah?
I am in Madison, Wisconsin, originally from Chicago.
All right. Mr. Truman?
I'm from the 414, Milwaukee.
Originally from 414?
Born and raised, yep.
All right. Ashley, or Angie, where are you originally from?
So I originally grew up in Duluth, Minnesota, and then I moved out after I graduated. I went to college at UW Stout, and I graduated in their hospitality program, moved out to Las Vegas from there, and I lived out there for 12 years.
Very cool. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So looking back at when you first started your business, what is something you wish someone would have told you about accessing funding? Looking back, what do you wish somebody would have told you about accessing funding?
So for me, I think almost similar to Ashley. At that time, I officially started my business in 2015, like legally. Before that, it was out the house. So if the health department's on this stream, I'm sorry, y'all. It's too late. We did it. But so from 2013 to 2015, I had no pay stubs. I was just kind of hustling cash, using cash, and it was no Cash App, was no other way. I was just kind of hustling. So I just didn't have my personal finances in order to have any proof as far as getting loans or anything. I did luckily run into some great programs like Kiva, where it's like a it's almost like a crowdfunding platform, but you essentially get loans. So you get loans from family and friends, and they fuel your loan, and you can kind of pay them back, with a 0 interest loan through Kiva. So I mean, I learned that through great organizations like WIBIC. But yeah, on the just having your personal finances in order to enable to get like business loans is key. And keeping that, I would hope most people know about having good credit scores as far as getting loans, but loans is only one way of getting capital. You got crowdfunding, you got equity, you get equity investments, or it's other ways to get loans. So.
Right. Thank you, Angie.
Yeah, I'm with Truman on this again too. I think the hardest thing was like I didn't pay myself for 6 years because I was putting every bit of money back into my business. And I would call myself a debt adverse person. Like I really don't try to carry a lot of debt even in my personal life. I don't carry any debt in my business for the most part. I am working on a Kiva loan right now, but because it's zero interest, I think of it a little bit differently. Even like our business building that we purchased on a land contract with the previous owner. So we didn't end up with a mortgage at that point. I have very good credit, very good personal credit, and I think that was kind of worked out for us. And the fact that kind of moving from Las Vegas to Wisconsin, we were able to save a lot of money. It was definitely a lot more expensive to live in Vegas, but we did basically reduce ourselves down to one income. So my husband was working while I was creating this business. So it was a lot of sacrifices that we had to make. You know, we didn't have, fancy cars or car payments or anything like that. We were living in a rental home at that time too. And so it really was for me, like, I guess, I don't know how, I even to this day, I don't really know how people start a business if they don't have that like support of a spouse or, personal savings. So like we started this business with like I said, I'm debt averse, but take it on when I had to. We ended up taking out like using a credit card to buy about $3,000 worth of initial inventory supplies to be able to create things. And then it was just getting out there and selling them and taking every dollar that came back in to buy more supplies and, just kind of build the business up really gradually in that way. And it was about 6 years before I felt comfortable, like actually starting to pay myself a salary, which that I say wasn't completely laughable. And now, it's obviously like you grow into that. And I feel like the business is in a good place now, but I think that's the biggest challenge is like, how do you start a business if you don't have financial support from somebody else during those first years?
Yeah. Sarah?
So I wish I would have knew that it was funding available when I first started my business. I started my business in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, just because I read this quote that said, we have become mass consumers instead of mass producers, so therefore we are unconnected. And at that moment, I knew that I needed to get back connected with Mother Earth and nature. So that was the real reason I started my business as I worked through some of my emotional needs. So I had in fact started Earthly Temptation with my income taxes. So what I earned from the previous year, I took that and I started ordering things and learning to formulate. And once I got that down, I started vending at markets and pop-ups. And sort of similar, I used all that money that I made during those markets and pop-ups to put back into my business to order more things for my inventory. So in the beginning, I didn't know that it was funds available, but however, I learned that it was when we opened our brick and mortar 2 years later. I was able to access funding. And the really important thing that I learned is having that personal credit is really helpful for your personal self, of course, and to grow for your business so that you can access that things. And having everything in order, right? So when I applied for that funding to open that brick and mortar, it was really crucial that I had the necessary documents to submit for that grant money that I was awarded. But most importantly, it's just that you have to have some type of funds, or if you can have your family to help you start that business, I think that would be better than starting a business with that. So yeah.
Okay. You said a few things there, similar to Truman and Angie, and so I appreciate you all sharing that. Ashley, hi, talk to us.
Hi. Well, I didn't do any of those really smart things. I went off on my own first to start my consulting business in 2019, the perfect time to start a business. You don't even know you have to be, Sarah, I don't know if you knew you had to be brave, but 2020, like, oof, it was rough. But 2019, I went off on my own. And at the time, I had a stay-at-home husband, 2 kids in private school, did the mortgage on our place in Madison, and then I also had been doing a ton of work in Chicago. So I had the rent on commuter apartment in Chicago, and it was like completely absurd. We sort of systematically chipped those expenses down. We moved our kids to MMSD, which for the record, we like so much more. My husband went back to work for a little bit in stages when we really, really needed that. But I actually have always thought I work better under pressure. So I guess I put enough pressure on myself. And actually, one of the things I heard Kate Spade say on an interview once was that she would not have gotten off the ground if she hadn't quit her job and then gone all in, that the pressure of that, I'm not sure that that's actually smart advice or not. I'm just saying it is what I did. Really where that gets tricky is health insurance. And I think it would be worth noting that everyone who wants to go out on their own says health insurance is the reason that they don't. And so if we wanted to have an immense amount of entrepreneurship in our country, we would take care of health insurance for people in a way that was not punishing, terrible, expensive exchange insurance, where we sort of tell the kids, like, don't jump off of anything because our insurance is terrible. Okay, so there's a book called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, and I really like Mike Michalowicz as an author. And the first time someone gave me a copy of Profit First, which actually I keep at my desk, but the first time somebody gave me a copy of this, I like threw it across the room because the sort of premise is just write yourself a check. Just write yourself a check first, and then you have paid yourself, and it's fine. And first of all, that's absurd. That's just not the reality of how things work. But there's a whole system of how to think about things, and more importantly, there's the recommendations for ratios of what your operating expenses should be, and that was incredibly helpful because a lot of advice doesn't actually say 30% of your revenue can go to operating expenses and you can still consider yourself profitable. People sort of say like, well, it's a little dubious. But I have spent time being way over leveraged. I think at this time last year, I was waiting to get our SBA line of credit and I was so tapped. I had made a crummy investment and it wasn't paying off. And I didn't follow my own rules about making sure that we had a buyer first. And so we had to, we built an academy, which I'm still really proud of. We're teaching people how to be VAs, but man, investment wise, is it a stinker? So I spent a lot of time over leveraged and I learned about myself that I do not do well under that kind of, I'm not friends with that kind of pressure. It's not good for me. It's not good for my family. And certainly the SBA loan line of credit made that more comfortable. But man, I did spend quite a few months breathing into a paper bag.
Eek. Well, thank you for sharing that. You know, everybody, you're here and you have a business and everybody's recipe is different. And so thank you for sharing that. All right, so we're going to dig a little deeper. I did assign you all questions and hopefully you all had some time to ponder on it, think about it. And so I'm going to have Mr. Truman start us off with what role did networking, mentorship, or community organizations play in helping you find capital or support?
So as I was listening to Ashley in the book Profit First, I actually wrote that down because I'm a believer that books is a good way to learn and has all the wealth that we need. Actually, the first time I asked for any sort of money, I asked my godfather, and he was wealthy in life, and I never really wanted to bother him unless I really needed it. And I asked him for a loan, like, hey, I'm about to start this business. I didn't even know what I needed, but I asked him for like $5,000. And so what he gave me, instead he gave me 5 books. So I'm looking at these books like, what am I gonna do with these books, man? I need money. He's like, no, you need to learn. So he gave me books about managing money, about investing, about starting business and everything. So, and he gave me this spiritual book. It's a book called The Alchemist, right? And The Alchemist talks about we got a couple fans in there, right? And we got one of my favorite quotes from The Alchemist is he said, "When you want to achieve something, all the universe conspires to help you." Right? And that mantra, I've used that, and it's guided me even to this conversation. So, as far as networking, in 2016, we got into this competition called the Rev Up MKE. It's like Milwaukee's version of a Shark Tank, right? You got all these local businesses come, we go on stage and we pitch at the Rave in Milwaukee, which is like a historic concert venue. We pitch our product and you know, hopefully you win some money or whatever. I felt so good, so confident in my pitch, and I came in second. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was gonna win. I came in second to a company called Pete's Pops, great company, well deserved. But what came with second place wasn't all the money. A bunch of resources came with it. I was able to get connected to the Marquette Law Entrepreneur Clinic. I was able to connect it to Marquette, just Marquette in general. They had this entrepreneurial lab. I ended up meeting this guy named Tom Avery and this woman named Cheryl Mitchell from UWM Small Business Development Council. So I was able to just kind of meet people throughout my journey, just like almost networking, and each person led me to another person, which, you know, ultimately led me to different opportunities for investments, like investments with, or like Cheryl Mitchell led me into this FedEx competition where we were able to place in the top 10 and win $10,000. And it was able to give the Marquette Law Entrepreneurial Clinic, who helped me trademark my business name and you know, help with so many other things, but more importantly, the business trademark. So when I was able to get in, have these conversations with Palermo's Pizza, like the first thing they asked me, so I got my trademark in 2018. I didn't meet with Palermo's until 2021. And actually around that time I got my trademark. Real quick story, I'm gonna be quick, is all I had was like $600 in my bank account. And the trademarks are cost like $375 or whatever. And at the time, my bank account got froze because I didn't pay my state taxes, right? So I'm going into the class, the last class of the day, of the year, and I'm going to pay for my trademark, and my credit card declines. And I'm like, what's going on? I couldn't figure it out, and I called the bank. You ain't got no money right now. It's a lien on your account. So I took my personal card out. All I had was $400. Paid for, I had an opportunity to pay for a frozen trademark or a hot trademark for our restaurant. And I just believe in going back to that, when the universe conspired to help you. I always thought that the frozen business would eventually be bigger than the restaurant. So I paid for the frozen trademark. Years later, when I go into my negotiations with Palermo's in 2021, after the, hey, how's the weather? How's the drive? The small talk, the first thing they asked me was, do you have a trademark for your business? I'm like, I actually do. Put out the trademark, and they were really impressed, and that kind of led on to other conversations, which eventually led to our partnership. But you know, all of the, you know, you talk about networking, like from the competition, from meeting Tom Avery and Cheryl Mitchell to meeting all these people, led me to this position where I could partner with this big, almost $1 billion company, and now we can help Funky Fresh get there. And now, hopefully, I could be beneficial to other people who are on their travels in life.
Awesome. So you almost have to be like a puzzle master, right? You have this little piece here. You know you're going to need it, but you just put it over here.
100%.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Networking is so huge.
All right. So Angie, what resources did you use to keep your business afloat when traditional funding wasn't available?
Yeah, I have a lot of different things that I've done over the years to, I don't know if I would really say keep our business afloat, but more like grow and kind of evolve to where we are now. I'm going to say my biggest resource has just been my customers. You know, just really, and I think this is really important. And occasionally I'm invited to speak with some of the high school kids that are in their careers class here. And I think the number one thing I always tell them is like, just be kind to people, you know, like treat people like they're your family. And if you're going to start a business and you're going to go out there and get customers, like treat everybody well, and then they become that great resource for you. So, and I can just say, like, when I first came to Ellsworth and I was growing my product line, I had all these ideas and I had to buy all these ingredients, and then I had to try these products out, and I was like, how am I going to afford to do this, to grow this product line? So I started like just a little subscription program for people in my community, and I gathered together 30 women who would have been my demographic, and I said, would you invest $30 to try tiny little samples of brand new products that I'm putting out there? And it was a huge hit, and I basically funded all that market research through this subscription program. So I think that was really a great idea and great moment for us along the way. Another thing, once I was able to take advantage of our chamber had a little pop-up program. Like once I got here to town and showed interest in setting up a business in this downtown area, the chamber got pretty aggressive about trying to grow this area. So there was a little bit, there was a nice connection that we had there. So in 2019, so this is October of 2019, they opened up a pop-up program, and they found 3 building owners on this dilapidated street who were willing to donate their space for 3 months for a business to just try it out. We got super lucky, and Truman, I am so excited that you brought up The Alchemist, because I am a firm believer in that myself. Like, we found like a building that could not, it was made for us. Like, it could not have been like a better space. And it was just like sitting there waiting for us. And so we were able to use that resource and the generosity of that building owner. And then in the end, he was so excited about what we were doing, and he was so ready to be done with this building that he, went into a land contract with us and gave us a really great price on the building and a really great interest rate. And and that's been a really positive relationship too. Once I was in the physical space, I was able to apply for a Red Letter grant, which is a local, kind of a regional grant out here in Western Wisconsin that funds women businesses either in the beginning or growth stages of their business. And I had always had this observation when I was selling to customers. I gained a lot of loyal customers, and we sell consumable products, and so people will come back over and over and over again to buy the product. And I noticed a lot of product that was the same product going out to the same person in a different container every single time, and that started really bothering me. And I just was trying to come up with a way to be a little bit more eco-friendly in that way. So I applied for the Red Letter grant and was awarded a $2,000 grant to open a refill center in my store. So we were able to create bulk product, reuse containers, set up a sanitation aspect to that. And that's been, I don't know that we would exist today in our little town, on our little street, without that program, because it brings people back over and over and over again. And then in 2000 and what would have that have been last year, 2023 in November, we were awarded the Wisconsin Main Street Makeover Contest winner. So we were able to completely renovate our space. And that came with a $10,000 award, as well as just that was nice. But the real prize was just the expertise from the retail space designers that we got, the facade designers. It was huge to have that help. And we were able to tear down some walls, open up our space, and then I was able to make our space kind of a dual purpose shop, refill center, and yoga studio. And so that was kind of I'll apply for anything. Like, if it's out there, like and I've applied for grants that I haven't gotten to, but definitely like the good ones, the ones that we really needed when we needed them, those have come through. And then I did take advantage while we were doing the makeover of the Kiva loan program too, which I think is a fantastic resource, because it is a loan, but it doesn't feel like a loan because you're not paying all that interest, and the qualifications for it are so different. And it's not even just that it makes it easier, but it feels so good to like have people in your life and people around you being confident in what you're doing and appreciating what you're doing to the point where they will put a little money forward. But I think it's great that it's like people don't look at it like a donation. They're like investing in you because they really believe in what you're doing. And so I think there's a big like confidence boost. And again, that connection. And that was kind of all came back around too when we were doing that. I did a big fundraiser just through my products, and I just made some bundles that people could purchase, and my customers just came out in droves and just supported, you know, that program. And we've been able to do, I mean, like the street that we are on down here, people don't walk by my store. Like they have to come down to my store. Like it's nobody's walking around. So the fact that we are able to be, you know, as successful as we have been down here under those circumstances, I think it's just great.
Awesome. Thank you. Wow. Great stories. Great stories so far. Sarah, question for you. Can you share a specific obstacle you encountered in your funding journey, and how did you overcome it?
So last year when I got the great idea to open Crashbox Therapy because the community needed another space to relieve stress and frustration, I didn't have any money, right? So I knew for the startups can be crazy expensive depending on the location and everything you need for your business. So I knew I needed a nice amount of chunks to open this business. So I went to my local bank, which I've been banking at for over the last 7 years, and I just knew I was going to get this loan that I applied for. But unfortunately, I had got denied for that loan. And that crushed my soul so much because my personal credit is A1. I don't have that much debt besides school loans. And I couldn't understand why didn't they approve me and why didn't they fight for me to get approved for this loan since I've been banking with them for all these years. You know, I thought that relationship that we had developed with them being my bank would account for something, but in fact it didn't. All I was able to get from my bank was a nice little credit card with a small limit, but I needed a large limit to open Crashbox Therapy here in Fitchburg. So I was already connected with WIBIC for, I used the Kiva funds to help support Earthly Temptation. So I already knew that WIBIC had funding available. So I sat down and I met with WIBIC. And that's actually where I worked on my business plan at for Crashbox. So I worked with WIBIC to apply for an SBA loan, and working with them, I was able to get approved for that funding. The process, it was a smooth process, but I'm gonna say that it definitely did take some work to get approved. It is a lot of documentation that you needed to submit. So I applied for that last year, and then I was able to get that this year. So I am really excited about that, and I am so happy that WIBIC is in the community to support entrepreneurs like me, especially when your local bank says no, WIBIC says yes. So I'm happy to be a member of WIBIC, and I'm so grateful of the relationship that they have with the SBA so that I was able to utilize that loan to open Crashbox Therapy.
Awesome. Awesome. Ashley, hi.
Hi.
How did your personal background, family, culture, community shape your approach to funding and risk taking?
Thank you, Alex. It's a great question. You know, I have spent a lot of my career in tech and around startups that sought funding. So I think I had a good understanding of how that worked, but I also had a really good understanding that that's not something that I wanted to pursue. I know women have an abysmal time going out and getting funding, especially from private equity or venture funds. And I also didn't really want to share what I knew was going to be a great business, and I didn't want somebody else telling me what to do. And, you know, like it's really important to me that I be able to keep, for instance, a great culture for the people that work for me. And I thought having an investor in particular would be a terrible idea. But I did think about it because, you know, I know people that have pursued that. And when I really thought about what I would do with an injection of cash, I actually couldn't think of anything really healthy that I could do with it. We, it's possible to grow too fast. And we have made that mistake where, we're so excited to have clients. And so we like bring them in and we feel like we had to do it so quickly or we were going to lose them. And that ended up being more expensive on the back end. And so now we take our time, we have a waiting list. But when I thought about what could I do with like 6 figures of an investment, I didn't think that there was anything productive actually that I could do with that. And I think also from being in tech, I take risks, but in a really constrained way. I have a real design thinking approach to the work that I do. And I worked in tech and innovations, and they celebrate failures and they celebrate things that don't work as much as they celebrate the stuff that does. And that has been really, really helpful because I'm pretty, when somebody on my team has an idea, I never say like, oh, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. I really say, okay, well, let's figure out what like the smallest iteration of that could be to prove out the concept and see what happens. And there have been some really fun experiments that have come out of that. For instance, I very, very briefly was building a Zoom Santa company, and now we have an audiobook and podcasting studio that came out of that. But it has been really interesting. But taking risks from a design thinking approach, I think, has been the most helpful. And then the last thing I'll say is that I have traditionally in my marriage been the primary breadwinner, and that has not been so easy. It's only because my spouse pays a lot of attention to my business, but I actually don't want like any interference. I feel like I know what I'm doing. But my partner has exceptional advice. So I think of him like an advisor. And I also know I have to be really, really conscious of not forcing him to go through the emotional roller coaster of entrepreneurship. In sales, for instance, typically you have this feeling that you are never going to sell anything again and you are a huge failure. You should pack it in because you will literally never make another American dollar ever in your life. Just give it up now. That's usually right before you're like, you like something big pops. But when it comes to a spouse, it's almost not fair to make them ride that roller coaster. And so I've had to be very, very conscious of sharing risks, but not, not sending him into a blind panic. So I think that's the sum total of what I'll tell you about how my background has influenced my funding decisions.
Very nice. And so we are at time, or maybe like 30 seconds, real quick. One word of advice for folks that are listening in before I let you all go on your glorious day.
My advice is always believe in yourself and whatever you are doing. If you have a passion for that thing that you are doing, then you need to do that thing. And it doesn't matter what anybody say or what anybody else believe, because you are not here to please anybody but yourself. So do any and everything that makes you happy and speaks to your heart and soul, as long as you believe you can, and then you can.
Awesome. Thank you.
I think I'm with Truman that it's really, really important to read and to be buying all the books and to really diving in. Mike Michalowicz is one of my favorite business authors, but there are a ton, and you sort of have to figure out what style of business author you like and then dive into it, because it's just really, really helpful to stay competitive.
Awesome. Thank you. Angie?
I think my best advice is just to keep things really simple as you can, and just kind of know what success looks like for you, and don't get too caught up in what success maybe means to somebody else, or what else is out there, because at the end of the day, you're the one who has to work in this business, and if you're doing somebody else's idea of success, you're probably not going to be very happy doing it. And just kind of make sure that I try to tell my son this a lot, like he's 17, he's kind of getting ready to go into the workforce, and don't think of your work necessarily as just a way to make money, but think of something that you can do to serve your community. Think of something that brings value, because, money at the end of the day is a tool that we use because we don't know how to use other tools. And so other people have other skills, and we should always be trying to find within our community how we can all support each other. We don't have to know everything because somebody else knows something. So offer something that people need, that you can use to serve your community, and always, always, always be kind.
Awesome. Truman.
Surround yourself with people that know more than you. When you want to achieve something, all universe conspires to help you. And don't stop believing.
Awesome. Well, folks, thank you for sharing your story of resilience, community, right, and resourcefulness. And thank you all for your time. Hopefully, we will all get to meet each other sometime face to face. Again, from the bottom of my heart, the state of Wisconsin, thank you for sharing your stories. And Michael, I'm going to hand it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Alex, and entire panel. The audience is very appreciative. I can vouch for that from the questions that have come in. And with that, we will close the 11 o'clock session. Thank you all for being here for day one of the virtual program of the 2025 Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor's Small Business Academy. Don't go anywhere. We're here again tomorrow, starting again at 8 o'clock sharp. This has been the Small Business Story Overcoming Challenges of Launching and Growing session. And I would advise that you please check out the resource directory between now and tomorrow. If you haven't already, it is in the handouts section of the webinar. And with that, thank you all. We will see you again tomorrow.